Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last lecture of the International Master in Sustainable Development and Corporate Responsibility. Welcome all of you. First of all, of course, our students, the main players of this last session. Of course, thanks to Lida Stott, I am the director and also a tutor of these groups. And of course, thank you to all the tutors, all the professors that have made possible this last session. And of course, thank you to the public that want to be with our students. I'm sure you are going to make a great job because you are very used to make these oral presentations. Let me remind, each group will have 25 minutes for your presentation of your final projects, and after the presentation, the evaluation committee might ask you some questions related to your projects. So very, very good luck. I know you don't need good luck because you're very good professionals, so let's start by group number 1, that is composed by Natalia Diez, Loren Musello, Fabio Pinto, and Javier Solano. So good luck.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to present our final project, which is the case study of Longani Partnership, a model for inclusive business. Let me introduce to our team. We have Fabio Pinto, Loren Musello, and Javier Solano. We all come from different backgrounds, but we are all together because we all shared our same ideals of how the world should work. So, for the next 25 minutes, we will cover these things of our project. We will give you an approach to the broad rationale, the story, the methodology, finding and analysis, and then the conclusion. Broad rationale. First of all, the idea of our project was to create on the case study of Longani several findings or conclusions that has never been before. So the Longani Partnership was created in the community of Zambia, and it was because there was this tension from the community to the appearance of the supermarket retailer, ShopRite. So the idea was to create links between big retail supermarkets and small shareholder farmers. We found this theme extremely important for our masters because it has a plethora of the curriculum of our IMSD, being agricultural and rural development, sustainable development, and new development mechanisms. And all of them are context in Africa, mainly in the sub-Saharan Africa. So, first of all, why Africa? Africa cannot be generalized. It's just a continent that encompasses 56 countries, and we cannot generalize of the whole continent, because even though they are all in the same piece of land, they show different circumstances and constraints. Then we found out that being sub-Saharan African with the 89% of poverty and it's dependent in agriculture, we found that still they have these constraints on lack of infrastructure, not access to credit, gender inequality, low productivity, high productivity cost, and trade and investment, and they don't have any opportunities for this. And of course, they have this rich environment, but they don't have the skills to build on a sustainable development for them. So there is no doubt that there is this gap between the rich and the poor, but for this, we need to challenge and address different development mechanisms. So there is this need to include the private sector into the way of making businesses with small communities and shareholders. Being partnerships, one of them. The definition of partnership is a voluntary and collaborative agreement in which participants agree to work together for a specific aim. So in order to be a successful partnership, we need to address that it has this life cycle. First of all, the preparation, in which you can review the context, because that will make a big difference on how your strategy for the partnership will be. Then the right partnerships, they are also crucial, and as well as assessing the incentives that makes them work together. Finally, to start up, it means agreeing on roles and responsibility and setting up the mechanisms that will be the communication among them. The maintenance phase is crucial just to assess how they are performing. And mainstreaming and further action, it's promoting accountability and ensuring that all the partners are engaged into their roles. And the monitoring and evaluation should be all across the partnership. The Luangani, of course, because of its name, you already know it's one of these models, and it has been talked about it as a successful partnership. So we decided to go into it, and these were the main questions that were interest for us. First, how has the Luangani contributed to sustainable development? Has it got a social, environmental, and economic impact? Then to what extent did the living conditions of the community improve, or if they didn't improve at all? And has Shopred added value to the contribution to the empowering the destitute Luangani farmer partnership? I mean, like if they have get this impact, not only because they are working together under an international organization, of it's actually got into their institution. I mean, in the institutionalized. Then what was the short-term or medium impact for the partnership activities? Because some of them were short, some of them were medium, and definitely this is crucial for our conclusions. And then, what were the strengths and weaknesses of the whole process? And of course, could or should the model be improved for replication or setup? If so, how? And if not, why? In order to address all these questions, we went to the analysis of the case, and Javier will go through the methodology of how we did it.
Okay, so the case study methodology. What is a case study? It's an empirical inquiry within a real-life context, and it's bounded to time and location. Why is it important for this research? Because we consider that it's the best way to provide insight on the case regarding with regard to the type of information we got, both qualitative and quantitative, and to describe it and draw conclusions from it. How did we do it? We selected a main unit of analysis, which is the partnership, and the subunits, which are the partners themselves. Then we identified variables, mainly incentives, and tried to describe and determine how they affected the performance of these partners. It's also important to address the limitations and let the audience know that we weren't able to do research on the ground. We couldn't visit the site, to location. We have limited access to the actors involved in the partnership, mainly the NGOs, ShopRite, and the government. We weren't able to contact them, and these are the main points. So going further into the story, let's go in now.
Okay, so let me set the scene for you. Let's do this. Zambia. Zambia is a landlocked country that is in sub-Saharan Africa. It's composed of 9 provinces and then subdivided into 72 districts further. The capital is Lusaka. Well, that's going to be hard, but there. Is Lusaka. And it has a population of just over 13 million. And the geography provides a dynamic scene that has allowed for mining and agricultural development. Privatization in 1991 worsened the conditions. The idea was that it would promote economic growth, but unfortunately, 10,000 people lost their jobs. 10,000 people lost their jobs in the 8 years that followed the Privatization Act. 10% was directly contributed to the Privatization Act. So we asked ourselves why business, but that is in the intention of promoting growth, was detrimenting the society. No, the video. Sorry.
Zambia. It's a country probably not on the radar of most investors. But like the mighty Zambezi River it's named after, Zambia's economy has been growing slowly and steadily, recording a GDP growth rate of over 5%. Now the country is on the brink of change. A new transitional leader, Peter Banda, begins his term facing a global economic slowdown, rocketing commodity prices, and rising food and fuel prices. But many say Zambia has faced a lot worse, from record interest and inflation rates to high poverty levels. And now is the time to decide on the future of Zambia's thriving economy. And luckily, it's in a good position to do so due to some sound macroeconomic policies and a record boom in copper price. In 1991, Chiluba came to power and instituted the country's grand privatization program, which privatized many state industries, abolished exchange controls, and endorsed free market principles.
Okay, so despite the fact that macroeconomic policies were made in the favor of economic growth, poverty still remains to cripple Zambia at large. In the mid-1900s, there has been a rise of supermarkets, moving out of their industrialized old economic models and into new developing countries. The problem is that they brought their industrialized model into a developing country with little regard as to the context of the environment that they'd be operating in and the social impact that it would have. This play? ShopRite began in the 1990s, and it started with 1 store, and then 18 stores emerged since then. Zambia, that is mostly dependent upon rural agricultural, was completely displaced by the supermarket's position in Zambia. Particularly the Lungeni community. The Lungeni community is in the eastern province of Japata, and as I said before, it relies solely on agricultural. The Lungeni community was furious by ShopRite's presence. As like our title, we pray for the day there is a riot. Other people had to change their market opportunities, as in the quote, that he started operating a small shop for 10 years, but was unable to continue to compete with ShopRite. So, the idea of the partnership that was created by 2 pilot students did a research project from the University of Zambia. They stationed in Lungeni for 1 month and learned about the troubles that the community was facing due to ShopRite's presence. They were so upset by this, they brought it back to their school, the University of Zambia, and discussed their idea of linking up the big supermarket retail with the small community. The Martin Kalunga Banga, the first broker of the partnership, was so dismayed by the lack of corporate responsibility of ShopRite, he aired his concerns on the TV. The Prince of Wales and the Danish Embassy and the British Council invited him to England to discuss his concerns and to air grievances. In 1940s, Prince Charles invented the Business Leaders Forum, which was intended to link up businesses for development. So he found a way that the idea for development through business would be partnerships and collaboration. He brought the idea back to Zambia, and they formed the Partnership Forum to synergize ideas, facilitate development mechanisms through collaboration of multi-sector parties. The partnership was then formed simultaneously with the Partnership Forum to be their keepsake or headfront partnership for development. It was divided into two phases. It was divided into two phases. There's phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was in 2001. The idea was to increase the capacity of the community to produce vegetables that would be marketed directly to ShopRite. The sub-turnoffs of increasing the income of the population would that the community would then in turn be able to afford education as well as health services. Other aims of the partnership were to increase gender equality through equal participation of the women, as well as raising awareness about HIV and AIDS. In the second phase, under the direction of the donor Court Aid, they put more attention towards the capacity building. And ironically enough, the ShopRite now established a green market, a place next to their store where they could sell their vegetables, and the intention was that the surplus would then be brought to other ShopRite supermarkets. Now this seems weird considering they were supposed to be integrated right into the supply chain, and now no longer they were doing that, but as well they had offered competition. These are the projected roles of each partner. ShopRite is obviously at the top because it's the core of the business model, is the intention. However, you will see that that is not the case. The Luangeni Community Cooperative was composed of various farmers in order to participate in decision-making and take part in the training courses so that they could empower themselves. Court Aid was the main donor. Eastern Seed and Vet came into the second phase after Zam Seed had fallen off their participation level, as well as the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, which would do as well provide extension services, training, and capacity building, and the entire government would provide the roads, considering, as Natalia mentioned before, the lack of infrastructure is an extreme detriment to producing agricultural, as well as society and health to create the capacity. And now I'll turn it over to the boys to discuss the findings and analysis.
Well, thank you, Lauren. Good morning, everybody. So we're going to start with the findings right now. We're going, Javi and me are going to cover the findings and the main analysis that we did over taking into account the background that Lauren and Natalia presented. So first of all, recapping the research questions, we had the first one was, did the social condition of the Luangeni community improve with the partnership? So it was our first question. And the second one, was the partnership able to link business with community? So from these two first points, our idea was to assess the results, the outcomes, the outputs, and the shortcomings of the partnership, to start evaluating if it achieved its goals, its main proposals. So first of all, we used a GIZ table, GIZ, the German International Agency for Aid. So they have a tool which is called the GIZ Poverty Impact Assessment Tool. It's used to assess their own project, but sorry, but we adapted this tool to use in our project. So our idea was to have clearly the main outputs, outcomes, and shortcomings of this partnership, and then we'd have a better idea if it achieved its goals or if not. So, so here we have the table. Okay, we adapted it obviously to our partnership. I'm not expecting you to read all the table, so I'm just going over it quickly. So we have transmission channels, which are the main points that bring change to community. Then we have the details of change initiated by the partnership according to those transmission channels. Then we divided the partnership in the pilot phase and the implementation phase, which Lauren referred as first phase, second phase. We use both terminology across the work. And the challenges, the main challenges and results that we found in this partnership. So our findings were that, first of all, the partnership achieved a lot of positive results. It improved the conditions of the community in terms of productivity, of quality of production. They got farming skills, they got financial skills, managerial skills. So in Dopteles, it helped a lot in their life and their possibility to compete with larger retails and other players. Other secondary positive results was raising awareness, social cohesion, since they got together with another community and they empowered the women. So it was very, very important in terms of the secondary positive results. But we wanted to focus on the shortcomings, because the shortcomings that emerged during the partnership were the main reason for it not to reach the main goal, which was link business to community. So after we had clear that there were shortcomings, that they failed on addressing those shortcomings, we wanted to assess the process of the partnership in order to know when and how did those shortcomings rose, and what could have been done to avoid this during the process. So first of all, okay, so we have another table, okay? I'm not expecting you to read it again. But we have, okay, as Natalia presented before, we have the partnership cycle. So we used that tool to assess this partnership. So clearly, we have a first phase that things happen in a very, very good way. Second phase, which is called the startup phase, when problems started to emerge, but the partnership was still running and was still able to reach its main goals. And we have a third phase when problems really, really worsened and the partnership was not able anymore to link a business to the community. And the fourth phase, which would be mainstreaming and institutionalization, obviously failed because the third phase failed, so it was impossible to reach the fourth phase. And the evaluation, which should be across all the phases of the partnership, was also a weakness, but we are going to explain later why we're focusing on the engagement, okay? Findings, first and second phase, as I said, present a good overall performance. The third phase, the problems really, really got worsened a lot. And the main point of this was the level of engagement of some partners, mainly ShopRite. Clearly, the level of engagement of ShopRite dropped a lot, and avoid to create and to enhance the link between the business and the community. As we have here, there were also problems in evaluating and monitoring, and as I said before, the third phase resulted in a poor performance for the fourth phase. So in order to assess why the level of engagement of ShopRite decreased significantly, we use a tool created from the Building Partnerships for Development. It's called BPD Partnership Performance Assessment Tools, which main idea is to unpack the main drivers for a successful partnership. And as we can see in this picture, can you see the picture? Yeah, right? Is it clear? Okay, we have here the external context, the organizational context, and the individual context. This context sets the ground to the desired targets of each partner, which are negotiated into the partnership's desired targets. So the idea is that the targets of the partnership should reflect the desires of the requirements of each partner. And then, if it is, indeed, they are going to participate actively. If it's not, probably the level of commitment, the level of engagement is going down during the process. And if they participate actively, the partnership is likely to have a good performance. So the findings from this tool was that the ShopRite goals were not reflecting the partnership goals. So when we read the goals, the first thing that drew the attention of the group was that all the goals were in regards to the community. So they said, okay, the community should raise the incomes, the community would be able to pay for health fees, to education fees, but there was any goal related to ShopRite. So what would be the importance of the community supply in ShopRite supply chain? We don't have this information to have this goal among the goals of the partnership. So to assess finally the level of engagement and to understand why this level of engagement fell down, we tried to create a tool. First of all, we used a tool created by Lida, right, Lida? Which is this spider graph. So here we evaluate the level of engagement of partners in the first phase, the very beginning of the partnership. What drew our attention as well is that Martin, the guy, Martin Kalungu Banda, who created the partnership, who was the broker in the first years, he said in our when we interviewed him that he considered the level of engagement of ShopRite very high. He assigned it a 9 in a scale 0 to 10. And we said, okay, so we are saying that the level of engagement of ShopRite decreased consistently, but the guy who created the partnership, the guy who created the partnership said that it was very high. So we wanted to unpack this level of engagement and understand what were the incentives driving this level of engagement. So we came up with a tool. I'm going to turn it over to Javi, who is going to explain the tool that we created to relate incentives to the level of engagement. Thank you.
Okay, so as Fabio was saying, we got interested in incentives and on discovering their true nature and the partnership. So we decided to take a deeper look into bilateral relationships and the interest different partners have to collaborate with each other. So we came up with this matrix which assesses the self-interest that each partner has in collaborating with each other. We brainstormed the different incentives we found in the documentation as well as the disincentives for working together. This was later evaluated by the group from a scale from 0 to 5, depending on from no incentive at all to a very high level of incentives. We averaged both self-interest and came up with this table that shows the level of commitment each player has in each particular bilateral relationship. So we can see that first everybody had a high level of engagement in green with the community, as well as some disincentives. Then we came up by adding the evaluation given to each relationship, a score in relation to a partner, and came with a new spattergram that illustrates the level of commitment of every partner. So as you see, ShopRite again has a fairly good level of engagement in the partnership, and the community still has the highest. So why? In the matrix that we saw before in bilateral relationships, we could observe that ShopRite had a very clear interest in acceptance from the community and to increase their reputation in order to keep operating because of the disturbances that it had caused on the community. So this incentive was temporary. As soon as they achieved it in the first goal, their level of engagement decreased because they have no longer an incentive to keep the partnership going for them. And there were no other mechanisms such as shared risk, resources resources committed, or any binding formal agreement between them and the community. So as a recap, we went through these tools to gather a conclusion going from the GIZ that illustrates the what, the life cycle assessment that says in what stage did the partnership fail. The BPD draws attention on how and why incentives affect the partnership, and the bilateral relationship matrix, how did these incentives affected the performance of the players. So I'm passing over to Lauren to say final conclusions and recommendations.
If it's not clear, we're obviously extremely exhausted. We had access to a limited original documentation, and the amount of research that went into our project was insane. We had no idea what we were biting off when we started this case study investigation. It sounded nice and easy, but we had no idea what we were about to embark in. But the key things that we did know and that did emerge throughout the entire project was the following. First, business as usual cannot be sustained. It cannot go on anymore. Old economic models based on past times and consumption for the short-term monetary wealth gains can no longer be sustained as The world is becoming more and more globalized, and the gap between the rich and poor is growing. The private sector, however, is becoming more engaged in development process, and that in itself is a good thing. New models are arising to mitigate development issues, such as partnerships and inclusive business models. We started the case study with the investigation because we found it very interesting for a large retailer to be linked up with the community and to involve the poorest people of the world. However, when we investigated the case, it was very clear that the partnership was in the name of CSR and nothing more. It didn't go past the line of agreement, and engagement fell off tremendously. So therefore, incentives must be weighted at the beginning of the partnership to predict how the partnership will unfold and whether it will be a success or not. Most importantly, I think we want you to come away with the fact that often retail supermarkets or big companies overlook the possibility of including the poor people, either as consumers, suppliers, producers, whatever their role is, they need to be included. There's $5 trillion of spending power a year on the bottom of the pyramid, and we need to take advantage of that. ShopRite fell short of their overall objective of linking up the community into their supply chain because it never was institutionalized into their core business model. We were hoping upon investigation that it was going to be because it would have been extremely exciting. But due to holes of lacks of documentation and data, we were unable to recreate a scene and play with the numbers of how it could have possibly be rescaled and redone. So I hope you enjoyed, and good luck, guys.
Questions or comments?
We haven't slept in months.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations, first of all. Yeah, I think you are very happy after 1 year working very hard. I have one question at the end, finally. It is, your conclusions are conclusions that we can only concentrate on this project and on this continent, Africa, or do you think that are conclusions to be implemented in whatever kind of business, in whatever continent, like in Europe or in the States or whatever? And if that is the case, why, considering that we have very different realities between developing countries in Africa and developed countries in Europe or United States?
Thank you. Well, the conclusions that we set here, they are based, I mean, we come up with these conclusions because of the study of the Luangini case, but however, it is like here when they say like incentives must be known and weighted, it also means that these should be worldwide. It doesn't matter if it is in Latin America or Africa, they should all be taken into account. And as well, like, of course, we have to take into account the context before trying to set up a partnership model or even an inclusive model. I don't know if my peers want to extend on it.
To add up to what they're saying, also the tools that we use for the...
Boy, hi. Go. Yeah.
I was just going to do it. Go.
Yeah. So, to continue with what Natalia was saying, the methodology used to assess the partnership and the tools used could be very useful for any kind of partnership or any small economic system that's trying to benefit the poor in order to assess if the players that we're getting involved will really contribute to what's trying to be done without assuming further risk and make the partnership clumsy later on by disengagement by them.
Just one more thing. Whenever you're doing a multi-collaborative project, you have to weigh each other's benefits. That's the key message we came away with, was that incentives were going to predict how the partnership would unfold. Partnerships can be in a health sector. A partnership can be with I mean, the idea is there's collaborating from private, public, government sector to come together and to move forward. But obviously, everybody always acts in their self-interest first and foremost. So the idea is to align those self-interests so that no one player has the least benefit or the most benefit, but create a win-win scenario for everybody. we know that we're directing this.
Yes. Wait a second.
Battle it out, guys.
No, I think, Gonzalo, you want, yeah? Okay, so.
Just wanted to ask about the role of the government here, or any public institution in trying to, in providing, in reducing the risks of a partnership like this, in trying to solve the problems in the first place, and to try to, and trying to act as a partner for, or at least an easer of the agreement in the what is your first, whether it played any role in this case, and to what extent you think is a necessary partner here?
Thank you, good question. Fabio, do you want to answer?
Okay, so thank you, Gonzalo. Very good question, because we were looking in this partnership, and it was one of our doubts. I mean, the role of the government. The government was involved in the partnership through the Minister of Agriculture, so they provided professional and technical support to the partnership, and they were also involved through the municipal council, and they helped as well with organizing community and so on. But I think the main point is that, yeah, from the very beginning, the government didn't assist the community, and the government didn't provide any security for the community when ShopRite got into the Chipata region. So during our research, we came up with other ideas and other possibilities that maybe even the partnership wouldn't be necessary if the government should have addressed this problem first. I give the example of my country, in Brazil. In the process of licensing operations for big companies like ShopRite, you're obliged to have like 50 or 70% of your suppliers must be locally supplied. So this is the government playing the role of what the partnership was trying to do, but the government did it first and did it from the beginning. So I see it with very good eyes, but in this case, it didn't happen. So I mean, the government got engaged afterwards, but in the beginning, before the partnership, the community was really in a bad situation. The government was not helping too much from our research, okay, from the information we got.
Gonzalo, you meant for the partnership, or you meant in general? Does it answer your question properly? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
You know that I met Martin Kalunga Banda, and I worked with him, and it's an outstanding person, and he ended up being the chief of cabinet of the president, and bringing these ideas it's a remarkable character. It's a really...
Well, that's how the partnership was started. He was invited to England because they had picked up on his messages through the TV, and they wanted to discuss the ideas, and he went back to Zambia. He included the academics, businesses, and right to the government, and brought a partnership forum, which is a similar program of the Prince of Wales for sustainable development in Zambia, in no time at all, and it's extremely impressive.
Any more questions?
Yes, I just would like to ask you more about Martin, because I think he did play an incredible role as a broker, and I think this broker role is really important in partnerships, and I'd like you just to talk a little bit more about what that involves and the importance of that role in any partnership, particularly Luangeni in this case.
Okay. In the case of the partnership, well, if we go back to the life cycle, this is... I'm sorry to start going back, but this is really important and it will be easier to explain.
Well, there was 2 brokers in our partnership, Martin and Dr. Yambabamba, in phase 1 and phase 2. And the differencing of brokers was an issue we also looked at besides just the role, but she can extend upon the role.
And this case of the broker, well, it was the Luangeni partnership showed us that the broker on itself changed from one phase to another. And the figure of having a broker through the whole life cycle, it is a clue to the success or failure of the partnership, because it is in charge of leading and being the communication channel within all the different actors and partners. And it has to, this person has to, it could be an institution or even a person, it has to have skills in order to be able to address all the different issues. And of course, the main thing it should be able to do is that the partnership should you say is keep going on, even though if he's not longer there. That means that then the partnerships will be empowered themselves.
If I could just extend for one more thing, the main role of a broker is to be the navigator of the partnership. Unfortunately, the problem with most partnerships is it's not a paid position. So therefore, brokers have to continue their full-time job as well as tend to the partnership. So they're unable to be on site and to monitor and evaluate on a day-to-day basis where problems may arise. For instance, ZAMC provided the wrong seeds, but that went unmitigated for months because nobody was there to deal with the problems. Martin admitted to the fact that he was a novice as a broker, and I believe he's learned a tremendous amount since, and I'm sure he's doing a wonderful job now. But he felt that he lacked the know-how of how to navigate a partnership properly, and it was a lot of learning experience for Martin. So perhaps if he had been a different point in his life, it would have succeeded more successfully because he would have understood the importance of communication and dialogue for decision-making and mitigating risk.
And just as a final thought for our audience, we would like you to leave this question to you. Who should be the broker? Should it just be maybe the government should be the broker, or maybe a community, or should it be the academia, or maybe an NGO that has the different networks among the different players? That's just a question for you to make a further research.
And the reason you guys have all our research on the back is because we're sustainable development and we didn't want to throw out our papers, so we decided to disseminate as much information as possible because education is the key to development, so build your capacity and share the knowledge, and good luck on your future partnerships.